Some of the most gifted people in the world walk through life believing they're completely ordinary, not because they lack ability, not because they aren't capable, but because the very traits that make their minds exceptional often feel like something is wrong with them. They think too much. They notice things others ignore. They feel emotions more deeply than the people around them. And over time, that difference can start to feel isolating. So instead of seeing it as intelligence, they interpret it as being too sensitive, too intense, or simply different. Psychologists have studied this quiet paradox for decades, because giftedness rarely looks the way people expect. It doesn't always show up as perfect grades or obvious talent. Sometimes, it appears as a restless mind, a constant curiosity, or the strange feeling that your brain operates on a slightly different frequency than everyone else. So here's the real question. What if some of the traits you've always worried about are actually signs of a rare kind of intelligence? In psychology, giftedness is often misunderstood. Most people imagine it as high IQ, academic success, or obvious talent. But researchers have discovered something far more interesting. Many highly gifted individuals don't look exceptional from the outside. In fact, they often struggle internally. Their minds process information faster, their emotions run deeper, and their awareness of complexity makes simple answers feel unsatisfying. This creates a strange paradox. The more aware your mind becomes, the more aware you are of how much you still don't know, which means intelligence doesn't always feel like confidence. Sometimes it feels like doubt. Sometimes it feels like overthinking. And sometimes it feels like being slightly out of sync with the world around you. Psychologists now believe that giftedness is not just about knowledge. It's about how intensely the brain processes experience. And that intensity often reveals itself through subtle psychological patterns most people never recognize. Researchers studying cognitive development have noticed something fascinating. People with unusually active minds tend to share a set of behavioral traits, not obvious talents, but patterns, ways of thinking, feeling, and observing the world. These signs often appear early in life and stay consistent into adulthood. And if you recognize several of them in yourself, it may explain why your mind has always felt a little different. Here are 10 subtle signs that psychology associates with gifted thinking. Mend. You experience the world more intensely than most people. Music doesn't just sound pleasant. It moves through you. A powerful idea doesn't just interest you. It occupies your mind for days. Psychologists call this overexcitability. Your nervous system processes stimuli with higher intensity. Your brain doesn't skim experiences. It dives into them. Sign 2. You ask why, more than most people. You rarely accept things at surface level. Rules without explanation frustrate you. Your brain wants mechanisms, not just answers. Neuroscience suggests that highly curious individuals often have increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for reasoning and complex thought, which means your mind naturally searches for deeper patterns. Sign 3. You often feel slightly out of sync with others. Not superior, just different. Conversations may feel shallow. Jokes sometimes miss the mark. Your interests may lean toward ideas most people rarely discuss. This creates a quiet sense of loneliness many gifted individuals experience. Sign 4. You hold yourself to extremely high internal standards. Even when others praise your work, you notice the flaws. Your brain constantly evaluates your own thinking. This is linked to strong metacognition, the ability to observe and analyze your own mental processes. But this awareness can also make you your harshest critic. But the next sign reveals something even more surprising. Sign 5. At some point in life, you learn to hide how intelligent you are. Many gifted individuals adapt socially. They slow down their speech. They avoid asking complex questions. They pretend not to know answers. Psychologists call this intellectual camouflage. Over time, hiding your intelligence can become a habit, so much that you forget how capable you actually are. Sign 6. Your mind makes connections others don't see. Ideas link together quickly. Concepts from completely different fields suddenly make sense together. This ability is called divergent thinking. Brain imaging studies show stronger connectivity between distant neural networks in highly creative or gifted thinkers. Your brain literally forms more unexpected connections. Sign 7. You have a powerful sense of justice. Unfairness bothers you deeply. Even small acts of dishonesty feel emotionally uncomfortable. This sensitivity is often linked to heightened activity in emotional processing regions like the amygdala. Your brain reacts strongly to moral imbalance, which can make the world feel overwhelming at times. But the next sign explains another unusual trait many gifted people share. Sign 8. Boredom feels almost physically uncomfortable. When your environment lacks stimulation, your mind begins generating its own. You start imagining scenarios, analyzing problems, overthinking possibilities. Highly active brains require constant engagement. Without it, the mind searches for stimulation. Sign 9. You experience emotions more deeply than average. People may have called you too sensitive, but sensitivity often reflects deeper emotional processing. Research on highly sensitive individuals suggests their brains analyze emotional stimuli more thoroughly. You don't just feel emotions, you examine them. Sign 10. You often struggle to believe compliments. This is known as imposter phenomenon. The more you learn, the more you realize how much remains unknown. Your internal standards keep expanding, which means achievement rarely feels like a rival. Instead, it feels like you're still catching up. Modern neuroscience is beginning to explain why these traits cluster together. Highly gifted individuals often show increased interaction between multiple brain networks. The default mode network, responsible for internal thought and reflection, tends to be more active. At the same time, executive networks in the prefrontal cortex analyze information deeply. This combination creates a mind that constantly reflects, questions, and evaluates, which can feel exhausting, but it also creates extraordinary insight. From a psychological perspective, giftedness is not simply higher intelligence. It is heightened processing, more emotional input, more cognitive connections, more awareness of complexity. But without understanding this trait, many people misinterpret it. They see their intensity as anxiety, their curiosity as overthinking, their emotional depth as weakness. In reality, these traits often reflect a brain that processes the world with unusual depth. So if several of these signs felt familiar, there is something important to understand. Being gifted does not mean being perfect. It does not mean life becomes easier. Sometimes it means your mind notices more, feels more, questions more. But that difference is not a flaw. It is simply the shape of a particular kind of mind. And understanding that shape can change the way you see yourself. Now I'm curious about you. How many of these signs felt surprisingly familiar? Let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you understand your mind a little better, don't forget to like and subscribe for more psychology insights.